tracks here, and card back up here. There we go.
So typically, I would think that in the title of this or the tagline, it would be our considerations for crypto mining from the generators to the substations.
Hey, shoot that to me in the LinkedIn chat there that we've had going here.
Okay, I now have to go back to LinkedIn. All right.
So many parts to producing. You think that when they do a TV show, it's so easy, but you don't realize how many elements actually go into making something. And we're just doing a little podcast YouTube show. So, okay, we got video going, we have audio going, I've got my screen capture going. Man, it's hard to believe that two people can pull this kind of thing off.
Exactly right. Good stuff.
So Thomas, and I forget how we got connected on. I think I sent you a request for friend because of your background, and you're tinkering around with the blockchain world.
Absolutely.
So
involved in various areas.
Yeah, and I did read through your bio that you were a Navy and an Air Force pilot.
Yes, so spent about 24 years in the service, first in the Navy, and then in the Air Force.
Really? Well, I was in the Air Force myself at March.
Nice.
Yeah, I didn't fly, but I was ground support. I was in the fuel world. I put the gas on the airplanes, so that was my contribution.
Very cool. Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you, man. We're keeping the world safe. Okay, so Thomas, what's going on in your world? Where are you located right now?
Where am I located? In Charlotte, North Carolina, the beautiful Carolinas.
Wow.
So I've been very focused right now. What we were discussing earlier is about finding capacity for crypto miners within the Carolinas energy network.
Wow. Okay. And why Charlotte? Is that where you're from? Is that where you're based?
Well,
pretty much.
We moved to Charlotte. I work in information technology, large billing systems, and server farms for those large transactional billing systems. And that one thing led to another. We came to Charlotte because that's where the banking systems are. Oh. And Charlotte has a huge draw for technology and financial services and energy. As a matter of fact, this is where Duke Energy is located, the largest power producer in North America.
Duke, and are you guys associated with them at all?
I'm currently a consultant with Duke Energy. I'm working as an Agile coach for transformation, better, faster, cheaper.
Better, faster, cheaper. I've heard that one before.
Yeah.
And you usually don't get all three. You get pick two.
It's a trade-off.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you guys encompassing all three?
Yes, absolutely. And it's a marvelous place to be. Very innovative. It's fun. I'm really enjoying myself.
Yeah. Being in Charlotte, are you a NASCAR guy?
Oh, absolutely.
Are you?
Restore cars and soup up anything with an engine that we can make.
You restore cars?
Absolutely.
Oh, what's your car?
Well, done probably a dozen over my lifetime, but right now, 68 Carmagia convertible is the little baby.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I used to be in the Volkswagen world. I had one of those for a minute, and if you can find one that the nose has not been crushed,
it's
bumping into something.
It's a 67 front on a 68 rear end. Yeah.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Right on.
That was put in. Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
Wow. I remember working on those things. I was a bug guy myself, and I think the coolest thing I ever got was a 49 split window, and boy, I love that car with the Pope nose deck lid, and
Yeah, if you go on my LinkedIn, you'll see the full restoration. I used a Kanban board to follow the flow of pulling the frame, doing all the restoration. So there's a LinkedIn article on the
Is
process.
there? Okay, cool. I'll check that out, man. So back to the agile. Your title, agile consultant. What does that mean?
Well, I work with Scrum, Kanban, business agility, the ways of reducing waste and increasing quicker value within the agile toolbox. What we focus on is providing working value as quickly as possible in small increments. It's the pattern I've been using within citing our crypto mining. We create value in small increments, adding and creating positive cash flow that we reinvest back into our systems. And in doing so, it's really led us to a different approach than many of the large scale crypto miners wanting just to come in and get a big land grab. By being able to elegantly stitch together your network, you don't put all your eggs in one basket. You optimize your load, your capacity, your placement, rent, and in doing so, you're able to reach into a lot greater service area than you would just trying to look for one specific location.
Okay, and so I guess that the companies that you're doing this for, um, like
We
ice.
have individual investors, we have institutional investors, and we have folks that we are onboarding and trying to bring in from overseas that have been shutting down in the Asia markets because of political pressure.
Political
Uh,
pressure.
yes, in January, the Chinese said that you have to shut down the mines. And so they've been looking for locations, Seattle, Washington, Quebec, Sweden. Some have gone to places like Iceland and even to South America, Latin America, Venezuela. The issue is though, once the capacity is taken up, there's a problem with going to nations with social instability. And where we are right now, we are incredibly stable, incredibly large, and it just seems like a great place and a great opportunity to focus here within the Carolinas.
And I think we were talking earlier that the power over there, it's getting a little cheaper, or it's just cheap generally.
Within our grid right here, incredibly competitive power, but the real benefit is that the real estate is dirt cheap.
Oh,
There are
really?
certain there's certain industrial buildings within the main corridor that have shuttered factories that you can pick up for a couple of bucks a square foot per year. It's nothing. It's like 6 to 10 hours a hash on your rig just to cover rent for an entire year.
Oh my
So
gosh! Wow.
that's one of the components that's really cool.
Yeah. And I think we were talking about that a couple of days ago when we were at our first phone call. We were just kind of talking about the building space and the rental and what you could pick up buildings for.
Right, absolutely amazing. It's not the space. So we were looking at a 50,000 square foot space yesterday with 20-foot high shelves. Beautiful, absolutely gorgeous space. But the reality of it, it only had 10 meg of power, and to bump it up from the substation would be cost prohibitive. So what we've come to understand, it's all right, we'll take the 10, we'll take another 5, we'll take little bits here and there and stitch together the network with our support network, inviting various tiers of customers where we are. And in doing so, we minimize the entry cost and capital expenditure and are up and running much quicker.
Okay, and are you guys just looking in the U.S. or have you been looking in other countries? Yeah,
No,
besides Canada.
No, we're specializing. My group, blockops.io, is block hyphen ops.io.
Okay, we see it right here.
On,
Yep,
yeah,
we got it
on
up on the screen.
right. We've been focusing on U.S., specifically those areas that have been overlooked. So when you look out at Seattle, West Coast, and others, it's overserviced. The municipal and the co-ops are pushing back because the miners are pushing up power and creating instability on the grid. Within the context of where we are right now here, we've looked and uncovered 200 megawatt of power that's virtually turnkey at the transformer within in buildings. Obviously, you're going to have to put in your breaker bars and your busing systems, typically taking down 480 power all the way down to 240 or 120 that you can plug into your power units. But yeah, that's a regular electrician at that level, and
Okay.
you're
That's
pulling
not
wire.
bringing the power company out with all their
No,
top end
it's on
guys.
the if it's on the inside of the meter, you have complete control over it, and that's the beauty about it. So you can grab these sites and take little chunks, get it going, get it stable, move on to the next.
And kind of for the people that don't understand power, kind of like me, break down kind
All
of
right.
what you're saying. A bunch of numbers in there. What are those numbers meaning?
All right. So let's put it into context. Let's talk about the general power, how it works with a centralized generation. You have centralized generation. There's a generating plant, a large plant that's going to make anywhere from 500 to a couple of thousand megawatts. Now, a megawatt is a million watts, right? A megawatt. It's a big chunk of power. The California Power Commission says it's the equivalent of 750 homes. So 1 megawatt, 750 homes. So that's a big
Wow.
chunk of that's a neighborhood, a big neighborhood chunk of power. A power plant's going to make hundreds, if not thousands, of megawatts, and they're going to have transmission lines. Now, transmission lines are have incredibly high voltage. That high voltage allows large amounts of power to go long distances. You have 90-foot, 120-foot power towers that carry these lines. The lines typically have a steel core, like 7 lines of steel core with aluminum wire around them. There's no insulation. That's why when the power goes down them, you can hear them hum. They
Wow. Okay.
typically that's at over 110 kilovolt amps. It's cooking. That's really hot. So
Oh my God.
100, I think it's 100 to 700 is the high transmission lines. Now those high transmission lines run along till you get to a step down or substation, which then bring you down from the transmission network into a distribution network. And that distribution, you drop it down, I don't know, anywhere from 30 in the 30s and to the 70 kilovolts. That takes you all the way down to those transformers you see on the poles or the underground service, the big green boxes with the fins on them. And
Yeah.
those transformers basically just take a high energy power and knock down the voltage to something that can be used. And really,
Wow.
that's it. So you have the power generators making power. It pumps it out at incredibly high voltage, and each step of the way it goes down and down and down to the point where on the pole, those round poles with little things on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to put out I don't know enough for a couple of houses.
Okay. All right. So
That fair enough?
whenever you got one of these going into a building, it's obviously more than what you're going to go into a general
Right. Yeah,
home.
but you can have multiple of those that would be able to give you anywhere from 25,000 watts to maybe a couple of 100,000 if they were configured properly.
Okay.
Typically, when you look at power, a house usually will be maybe 100 amps, big house, 200 amps. When you look at residential or buildings, it will typically be 240, like a 240, 400 amp is like the top end service before you start going up into something like a 480 3-phase, which is just a different way the wires are configured to get more power into a building.
Okay. And it's like in a house where you got like just your dryer that's running on 240. That's the most power you're going to get into a home.
Absolutely. And with that, it's the difference in the wires and the wave, and probably not something we should go into here, but would love to sit down. Yeah. The thing that I find really amusing, it's not amusing, but just fascinating, is that many times the miners that I talk with have no comprehension about the orders of magnitude of power and the impact in the local grid necessary to serve power. I was talking to someone today that was looking at, can I set this up? Can I do this? So, sure. But you're going to have to run, extra wire from the substation with a transformer there. You're going to write the check. You're going to put that. And by the time you get it to your building, you're looking at 7 figures for what you're asking right now. That's just on the other side of the meter. Guess what? And it's going to take you 12 to 18 months to get it through the permitting process. And that's why myself and my folks have focused on inside the meter, the stuff that's already existing. Because you don't typically overbuild that much within those particular areas because you'll never use it. And that's just sunk cost. And you just don't do it. You're not building a stick home with I-beams because it doesn't make sense. So you have to go where those loads once were and uncover them. And they are gems when you find them.
Wow. Okay. So I was talking to a guy the other day that he's in Florida, and he was saying that some guys came to him and said, hey, we want to rent your garage, and we're going to pay for your electricity bill. And we're going to put in, and he told me they're going to put in 3 of those little ant miners.
Yeah, the little ant miners. So that's nothing.
Okay. So
you're looking at what, 3 to 5 kilowatt. So that's not a whole lot.
It's not. Okay. So with those things are running at full power, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in a month, what's a typical bill you think would be?
Well, there you go. Oh, it depends. So when you look at one of those, typically,
I think it's called the S9s, right? Is that what it's called?
I'd have to look at my charts. I have a whole bunch of different equipment that we provide, okay. But I think kind of back of the envelope right now, you're looking at let's just say it's a kilowatt, 1,000 watts. It's the power that you'd have off of a little space heater that you get at Walmart.
Okay.
And you have to deal with the heat too on those, but they're going to make probably about $6 a day, or $1,825 a year. So they pay for themselves very quickly. But the reality of it is you can't put that many space heaters into a little space without bumping up on the power of the house. It just doesn't work. Again, in a residential, you're only going to have 100 amps.
Wow. All right. So that's it's not going to kill his electricity bill, but are these cats going to be able to come in and put in this 3 or 4 of these little ant miners in his garage, pay for his electricity bill? And give him? I think they were going to give him a certain percentage of whatever they're making. What do you think he's going to make at the end of the year?
It depends what percentage they're giving. Let me run some numbers here.
Let's say 30%. They were giving 30%.
Okay, so 30%. That would be. I'm running my calculator here.
Okay.
He'll get maybe $1,500.
$300 after his electricity bill.
$1,500.
Oh, $1,500. Okay.
$1,500 would be his share.
All right, a little better than picking up cans on the side of the road.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a little residual income.
Okay.
And he doesn't have to pay the capital costs. Yeah, that's fine. One of the mining companies that we work with right now out in Idaho, they have ridiculously low power, and what they do is they give it's like 20 or 30% back end hash for power and everything, power, housing, maintenance, perfect. So you just put your miners there. The rent is the hash. It automatically goes there. They optimize the coins and pointing the mining pools. It works great.
Wow. Okay, so take us through what is a typical setup. You go on Amazon or wherever, eBay, and you buy one of these S9 ant miners. Um, Say somebody wants to just buy one and stick it in their bedroom.
Yeah,
What's
what
the
you're going to do,
process?
right? The process is you're going to buy it, you're going to plug it in, you're going to set it up. If it's a particular thing like an Ethereum setup where you're going to build out your own motherboard, your own blades, everything, it's fun. But ultimately, as an individual miner, you're going to be limited to what you can do. So a typical house could maybe do a dozen before. Okay, you can't turn on your oven because you're going to switch. You're going to switch the main breaker,
Oh
right?
wow.
No using the dryer anymore, Mom, because I got my miners going on down there because that's where it comes down to when you actually look at the load across a breaker like that. Okay, so you have a air condition, a oven, and a dryer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are going to be big draws, and the whole thing in a house is designed with that amperage in mind. So if you have 100 amps, what, 24,000 watts. The whole idea is that all those can be running at the same time, but there's this tiny little margin there that's left over if they are. And if you have half of your capacity of your house spinning miners, you're not going to be able to turn on that type of load and have the main breaker stay on.
Is it feasible to have, say, Southern California Edison come into your home and basically set you up with two, what would be two homes worth of electricity?
Oh, absolutely. If
Yeah.
you do you have a checkbook? But typically, when you add additional capacity, especially at a residential level, you're dealing with a different tariff, and the tariff is the rate that you're going to pay. So, typically, a residential rate out in California, I believe, is very expensive.
Yep.
Upwards of here in the Carolinas, I know it's about 12 cents a kilowatt hour. When you look at the places that we're looking at, which are light industrial, pre-existing, everything's ready to go, we're in the 5 cent a kilowatt hour. So
Wow.
you're looking at right off the bat, you're doubling your profit. Boom. So those folks that are mining on those 12, 15 cent a kilowatt, when the hash rate gets to a point where it's not profitable, they have to turn off their miners, which then drives the hashing to those that have the lower power rates. So it's
Wow.
very advantageous to have a low power rate to be competitive when you hit that upper limit of, hey, I'm running my stuff and I'm losing money. You have to turn them off.
Yeah. Well, that's what I've come across whenever I have put some money into a company called Hashflare. Have you heard of them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
I have
so
not. I'll look them up.
okay, so Hashflare. So back in I found it in December whenever everybody was going crazy, and I didn't know what mining really meant, and I
Yes.
found this company called Hashflare, which is very popular. So I put in about $300 worth of Bitcoin into it, right?
Nice.
And every day you're supposed to be able to either cash it out. It's a 1 year
Mm-hmm.
contract. You either cash it out or you reinvest it into your mining capabilities, right? So you
Absolutely.
buy a portion of this little machine. So I believe that the day that I started, I looked and it gives you like a scale of what you'll make if you take everything out. You don't
Yep.
reinvest it at the end of the year. You, I think mine was like $700. I was going to pull out
Yeah.
$700. I'm like, okay, great. Well, and it's things started happening, and I don't understand what causes the fluctuation, but it went up as high as almost $1,200 on my $200
Yeah.
investment. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to just start throwing every dime I have into this thing.
Yeah, but it can, as it goes up, it can come down too.
That's exactly what happened. And so
Right.
now my $200 investment or $300 investment is going to get me back a little less than what I put in.
Yeah.
So
And
I
that's
just
not a
lost money,
good
right?
that's not a good investment. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it's all good.
Yeah. So
But,
I'm losing money, right? I lost pretty much.
yeah, yeah, but that's
Yeah.
how it works, right?
Yeah.
And think about the folks that are putting in massive setups. Those are that are on the cheap hydro obviously have a tremendous benefit as to those all over the world that are near cheap power supplies.
Yeah.
But as the scaling continues, there's opportunities to go and look at capacity where other folks aren't looking. And there are creative ways to make partnerships with existing load behind the meter. So imagine a heavy industrial load that's has an existing contract at an industrial rate with a utility, a regulated, unregulated, whatever. But in that rate structure, that fee, they have to have a base load. Well, if they're not making their base load, their rate goes up, and well, that's a problem. A partnership inside the meter, very much like your friend with his garage, with a large industrial. That's wait, we need to put on a few megawatt. What can we do to do that base load? Because if we get the base load, wow, that brings our power down. Hey, well, I know these guys that can take a constant base load for us. And wow, okay, that saves us money. They give us money. It's all good, and everyone wins. And when you look at those opportunities, that is that's amazing.
Yeah.
How many opportunities are out there like that? But it takes some searching
Mm-hmm.
and some discovery.
But those things aren't being advertised anywhere. No one's like saying, "Hey, I've got extra, uh, base
Right, but
loads I need to rent out."
that's where my group is.
Oh,
Is our specialty is uncovering that and providing financing, providing placement, providing discounts to equipment, just general all around having a conversation and saying, "Hey, who are you? Where are you? What do you want to do? And how can we help you?"
so that's the kind of people that should be seeking you out, is the people
Yeah,
that want to do this.
absolutely.
Wow. Okay. Um, Now, God, I just had a great thought and it just went poof, just flew right out of my head.
Just went by.
It did. I know that we also talked about the other day. We were talking about another company that you were kind of working with, Ash Elements.
Yes, yes. I've been looking at doing a security token around rare earth elements that you find in coal ash. Folks don't really know this, but rare earth elements are used in cell phones, in windmills, in rare earth magnets, and all sorts of electronics. And regrettably, the majority of it right now comes from China. And that disruption in the supply is causing a whole bunch of anxiety. When you look at supplies, there have been some interesting ones by Japan on the seafloor. There have been some stuff up in Canada. But here within the East Coast, coal has very high amounts of rare earth elements, certain seams. And when you burn it, it concentrates at 10x. And that coal ash is put out into big pools or ponds that are considered trash dumps. You For particular coal ash, though, they can have hundreds, if not thousands of dollars worth of rare earth elements. So 1 ton of coal ash averages in particular ponds around where I live, $763 a ton of rare earth elements. It's
Wow.
orders of magnitude more than the coal is worth. You know?
Oh my
And
God. Wow.
it's funny. So what we came up with is that, hey, we'll go and buy callable futures because the technology to extract isn't there. But if you could say, hey, I'm going to go buy gold ore for a penny on the dollar. And in 10 or 20 years, the technology will be there. It's like going back to the Louisiana Purchase and plunking down some money on 1.2 cent an acre land.
Yeah, and where do you get this gold ore? You just store it in your backyard. How do you get a hold of something like that?
No, no, no. What this is a callable future. Basically, it's fractionizing basins that have high value, and ultimately, it's a paper contract. So, if you had 1 million metric tons, you'd put 1 million tokens out there. When someone approaches the holding company with 1 million tokens, you give them the contract, and they go to the owner and do the remediation, the mining, and take the liability from them.
Wow. Okay. So you where do you find this kind of stuff?
It's all over. Go on
Is it?
Google Earth. Just look at next to any coal plant out there. There's over 1,100 coal ash basins in the country. And if you do a Google search on coal ash, you'll see that there's a real environmental issue around it. Our solution is one, to do remediation for those sites. So if you were a basin holder, I could come and say, well, we're going to tokenize your basin, and this will give you a bunch of money that then you can go back and cap, cover, drill wells, do stabilization so groundwater isn't contaminated. And in the future, if and when a refiner wants to come in and purchase that, they'll take it off your hands, and now you can walk away from it completely, and everyone wins. But where we had started off, my son had done his university work at Elon University in environmental sustainability, and had done his graduate work in the field doing groundwater and coal ash contamination.
Yeah.
And this was just kind of a follow on with how can you get money out of something and use it to do the cleanup. And this was just a creative way to say we can do environmental remediation and cleanup of the very garbage, the value in the garbage, which was kind of cool.
Wow.
So we put it all together, and we need to do a Reg A tier 2 offering. And right now that's about $250,000 in legal fees. So we're working on the crypto mining first to save up some money to go to the big guns and go play in that arena. But it's going. We're talking to some folks to get our initial ash basins. Have had some marvelous conversations with the SEC. They've provided tremendous guidance. They're marvelous to work with.
Are they? Okay.
That's incredibly helpful. Yeah, if you approach it as, hey, I want to be regulated. What do I got to do? And you approach it from a perspective of being a business partner and being constructive, creating the framework of trust and trying to follow a line, because it's all new. And I think
it is. But are they up to date on the laws and the regulations that they can give you the advice on? Because I've talked to people where they're like, we're not in the business of giving advice. We're in the business of letting you know when you've broke the rules.
Right, but in a conversation, of course, there would never be guidance like that. But it's a conversation about having someone poke holes in what you're doing, which provides a constructive, a gentle conversation, a constructive feedback that is marvelously helpful. Because what I've experienced many times is that with the attorneys that I've had discussions with, it's more of, okay, I'm educating them on blockchain, on coal ash, rare earth elements, refining it. But when you actually go to the experts who can go back and be quoting case law from the 1930s just off the cuff, and you go, oh, great, got to write that one down. Yeah. What's that? And so it's just, no, there's no opinion. It's a conversation with really smart people in their art, and you learn by proximity. But the willingness to have that conversation has just been marvelous.
Has it? Okay. Well, I guess they know that the more and more people are coming to them about this, and they're going to have to
Yeah.
start having better answers than
Right, but that's a conversation to get to those answers, and from a perspective of guidance, ultimately, it's in the best interest of America and the country to have strong frameworks around which ICOs and cryptocurrency have transparency, protect investors, make sure that there's not money laundering or any silly stuff going on. You don't do that. That's why our stock market has such credibility, because there are those implements behind it to keep things above board, because it can go sideways really quick if you're not watching it.
Oh yeah,
We've seen that with the last run. 90% of tokens now are like the .com era.
Yes. So I have a friend that I do a show with, and he is he's an advisor for a lot of these ICOs, and they're here in the States. But one of the first things they say is they ask him, "Are you going to try to release a coin in the States?" And if somebody says yes, they said, "Okay, well, go find somebody else. We're not going to touch you."
Exactly. I would argue, though, if you are a security token that's tied to something of true value, that you're in the US, that you're fully regulated, you're fully transparent, everything's on the table, guess what? That's a value that is very rare, and people are going to want some of that. Because what you've said is that play by the rules, following the instruction, have true value. And, well, that's the kind of thing that would attract me, because that's the type of team that you're transparent. Yeah. That makes a difference.
But are you scared of new regulations coming in that would kind of negate any of the processes that you've gone through to get to where you think you're going to be able to release a token?
It's all in education, and as long as you're making progress, it's good.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm not an expert by any means, and I don't try to pretend to be, but this is what I hear, and then I wonder why somebody would want to release a token in the U.S. after hearing their argument. But then I go back to, okay, well, if you're working with the SEC and they're saying, hey, this you do all these things and it's cool. Why not, right?
Absolutely.
But then to buy the tokens, you got to be, buy them. You have to be accredited U.S. investor, right?
Well, not necessarily. If you go through the appropriate regulations, it could be open, but you need to have a broker agent and an exchange by which people can come through, and you have a good framework for know your customer. So you ensure that there's reporting and no money laundering or no funny business. And if that is there, I mean, there are exchanges that deal with that for above board. All right. If you want to participate in that, it's very much just like the over the counter stocks.
Yes. Yep.
Same type of thing, but it's regulated. The rules around it. It's more risky, but there's also the more opportunity for return.
Yes, there is. And opportunity to lose a lot of money, which when I thought I was going to be a day trader, I had my little day trader cap on. And I put my $1,000 in, and it went in a couple of weeks. I went up to like $8,000, and I'm like, "This is easy." And then a few weeks later, I was left with nothing. So, so I jumped out. Are you advising people on how to set up their own mining rigs? Are you advising people on how to set up their home for things like this?
Typically the small investors, what I would encourage folks to do is to go look on YouTube. They're just marvelous blogs and stuff and forums, and that's where you want to go, because dealing with really small clients that aren't savvy, too much emotional drama from a perspective of, all right, you're accredited, happy to set up uh, rigs, house them, work on them, provide full transparency, and that's just a different level of play.
Yeah.
And you're able to service that at a far more less emotional
Emotional.
investment. No, folks,
Yeah.
folks that only have a few $1,000 in their bank account, and they're going to put this in, and they're betting on something. That's just a lot of intensity. Where some of the other folks, we had someone up in the office a few days ago, and yeah, I'm going to throw $1 million in. Yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah, it works. That's cool. No, that's fine.
I'll throw $1 million in. Yeah.
Yeah,
Pocket
no,
change.
but I mean, seriously, that's a completely different conversation to have.
Yeah. Wow.
And in that case, you can not necessarily advise, but make recommendations, have conversations, show the structure. So from a perspective of what we do, we have partners. So we have partners around finance. Are you a business? Have you been in business over 3 years? We can give you a line of credit, a revolving credit, traditional. Do you have a bunch of Bitcoin? Great. We can point you in the direction to a partner that will put it into escrow and give you 35% in cash of the value of your crypto at 12%. And so you can put that down, put that into the mind, and get triple the stuff that you could otherwise, and still keep your crypto.
Wow.
And there are all sorts of specialties like that, but it's like, what do you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
Let's sit down and have that conversation. But typically, you want to do that on a scale that makes those partners' business function.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Keep them coming back.
For equipment sourcing, buying onesie twosie off of eBay, not so much. You want to buy 100? All right, now we're talking about that. We have partners that talk to Bitman and the others like every day, because that's a direct connection. You're buying in volume. You're able to pass that savings on, and everyone benefits.
Cool. Are you guys ever going to get in the business of developing miners?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely
There's
not.
No car ahead on that. No.
Yeah, okay.
I believe our unique value proposition is saying, we are sleuths. We uncover some really cool places to put miners. It can be your own facility. It can be one that we manage. It could be someone else manages it. However you want to set it up. But we'll find the location. We'll find the good cheap power. We'll be able to get folks that can help you do the design if you want, help do the permitting, help get everything to meet code, be able to walk through that whole process. Do you need financing? Do you need equipment? Do you have your equipment? Our offshore, we have the equipment. Are you going to send it to us in racks? Are you going to send it to us in a Connex? If the Connex is being sent over, does it have a transformer? Can you hook in? Every situation is different.
Wow. Okay. What about places like Montana? Or was it Montana or Montana? Or
well, we have partners up in Idaho right now that they have an old onion barn of all things, but it has a co-op power rate that's stupid low. It's awesome, but the reality of it is they're hitting their upper limit, and that's the problem in these remote areas. You get some great cheap power for a few meg, but once you hit that, well, guess what? You got to go somewhere else. When you look at a system like the Duke system, it's massive. The generating capacity is 49,300 megawatts. And there's capacity all over the system. You just have to look for it. And that specialization is something that my partners and I have looked at as a unique value proposition within the business, looking at the small and medium, not trying to look for those massive sources of power that the whales are going after. And from a perspective of real differentiation, though, is the way that we work on it is, even if we house it for you, you own the equipment. And because you own the equipment and it's financed, you end up with a depreciating asset with a positive cash flow, which for those clients that we're engaging with, well, you're in the top tax bracket. And if you can be depreciating your investment with still, while you're making more money than the depreciation, that's a pretty good place to be in. And ultimately, that those pools can be wrappered in paper and sold into the institutional funds to do the same. And so that's one of the areas of finance we're looking at, is publicly traded, to be able to augment folks' 10Q annual reports, to be able to turn cash flow around very quickly with the bundled groups of miners that have already been established.
Yeah. Okay. Have you guys been looking at alternative sources of energy like windmills or solar?
Yes, and from a perspective of that type of renewable energy, typically hydro, renewable, great. That's the best. But that's pretty much been all taken up now. When you look at wind, fantastic. But when the windmills don't blow, 8 miles an hour, those turbines don't make power. A windmill, a real one out west or in the North Sea, is going to be making 1 to 5 meg. I mean, they're pumping a whole bunch of power. So yes, it's there, but it's also expensive from a perspective of the capital.
Okay.
Right. And you're going to have to do that capital and investment. For us, getting that it's a lot easier just to go to existing places and put up some shelves from IKEA and run some wire from Home Depot, right? Wow. So it's all about the barrier to entry.
Okay.
So we're going for the low barrier of entry. There are some clients that want to have green power. So in the Carolinas, you can buy REX, which is green power. You buy certification. I think we have somewhere around 800 megawatt of solar within our service area, and you can buy certified solar power for your units, and it's grid connected storage, so you can run them at night too and call it solar. Under the mechanism, under the paper.
Wow, and compared to buying electricity from the power company, what's the rate there?
Well, it's going to be grid connected, so that solar goes into the grid and is used throughout the day. So when you look at the grid, so you have base load. Like in our area, you have nuke. Nuke is base, thousands and thousands of megawatts. That never changes. That is always constant. And on top of nuke, you're going to have coal. Coal, you don't like to cycle coal power plants. You can have 500 to a couple thousand megawatt coming out of a coal plant. But when you shut down a coal plant, you have to light the coal again and get the steam plant going, and that takes $1 million in diesel fuel just to light the thing off again. So you don't want to ever cycle that. So you have your nuke, you have your coal, and you try to keep those base all the time. So on top of that, you have gas turbines, natural gas hooked into a literal turbine with a heat recuperator in the back that makes more electricity. And the cost of the base fuel is higher, but you can cycle them. It's just like a jet engine. You can throttle it back and you can throttle it up. So we have 800 meg of solar power. Well, guess what? That means that those jets have to be brought back while the solar is coming on during the day. And at night, those jets have to come up. And there's a whole bunch of cycles. So you want to have various different types of generation on your system to be able to meet the load fluctuation. Load fluctuation comes from the time of day, comes from the weekends, comes from weather extreme, either high or cold.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
To know, it's not just sticking something in a plug in the wall to turn something on. There's heck of a lot more involved behind the scenes there.
Yeah. And when you actually look at the different types of power, that's why many large industrial have interruptible power. So if you're a hot day in the summer, call up the plant. Hey guys, you're shutting down. We need to run air conditioners on the residential and buildings. So they shut you down. When you look at, for example, adding miners and adding new capacity that goes all the way into the transmission lines and the substations. So one of the things that they're experiencing right now in many of the rural areas and co-ops is that the city elders realized that, hey, these miners are coming in and sopping up all the power, and we can't bring in new businesses because there's no more power, and we're not really getting any benefit from having a bunch of Connex boxes filled with computers running and making other people money that don't even live here. So
Amazing. Wow.
there's a lot of pushback against that. So I believe that there's a healthy blend, and that's what we're going for. We're going for it exists, the system can absorb it, and well, we're seeing where that will take us.
Wonderful. Wow. That's crazy. Fighter pilot that comes in and starts helping people with power and
Yeah,
mining. So are you going around doing talks? I saw something on your thing that you were at.
Yeah,
Were
I'm
you,
on the lecture circuit on a few different topics. So
Token Fest, right?
Yeah, Token Fest. I'll be at the Satellite Innovation Conference out in Silicon Valley here this fall. So one of my hobbies is microsatellite design and operations. So I've done a little work with NASA. Spoke at the European Space Agency. It's all fun, man.
Oh my God!
Wow. So good fun, and be up at Boston at Token Fest this fall, which is going to be an awesome conference, man. It is. The one in San Francisco was a blast.
Yeah.
So
really what are the dates on those?
The September 23rd, 24th, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't know. You might want to check it, but it's going to be an awesome event.
What are you doing in August?
Oh, August. Other lectures. I'm lecturing on blockchain, power, and then this fall in December, I'm going to be down at PowerGen, the largest power conference in the world, talking about load leveling and stabilization of the North American power grid and the implications of using crypto mining to add load growth to utilities, both privately and publicly held.
Amazing. Wow. Well, we got a show coming up in August 6th, 7th, and 8th in LA. It's going to be the North American Sports and Blockchain Conference.
Yeah, very neat.
And it might be interesting to have you come in and talk to some of these cats about renting out their garages. Some of these guys that are having, should they or should they not?
Yeah, the power is going to kill you. Those independents, the opportunity to be able to look at the facilities like what we're doing and all right, well, you want to be an independent? We can rent you space, cage space at an incredibly ridiculous rate, and you get power for less than half of what you're going to get. And that's really the shared space model in these larger, well, from a residential to large, it's a few meg. So you have 20,000 square feet. You have a dozen cages. Sure, come on in with your buddies. Yeah. It's just like a you store it, but it's a you store for crypto. You can come in, and if you don't want to manage them, we'll manage them for you. We got people. We'll introduce you. The folks that are we're working with right now were the ones that actually did the server farms for Microsoft, Amazon, Google. Really top end folks.
Wow.
And, they took some exits and they're like, hey, this looks kind of neat. Well, what do we got to do? We got to find some power. Hey, you know anyone that knows how to find power? Well, we know some people. And it's an eclectic little group, but we're looking at the niche of what's been overlooked by others. And I think in doing that, it's a unique value proposition that we bring that no one else does.
Wow. Okay. Well, man, this is great. Well, I'm glad I got to talk to you, and I think this is a great education for a lot of people who are thinking about sticking, 10, 15 miners underneath their bed and not expecting mom to notice.
Yeah, you're going to be rocking the air conditioning. Mom will notice.
Okay, man. Well, like I said, it was great talking with you, especially a former Air Force brother. So
yeah, man.
It's you're doing great work, man. So we got all of the links to your stuff up here, and we've got Ash Elements, we've got Block Ops,
and anyone can reach out to me. My own website is tomfriend.com.
TomFriend.com. It's easy.
That's easy.
It's easy, man.
Yeah, so that takes me to my cell phone and LinkedIn.
Okay. All right. And the Ash elements we see on here, days until Token Fest.
Token Fest Boston. Yeah, I'll be there, man.
Okay.
So hopefully by then we'll have some more news. We were really well received in San Francisco. I believe that the environmental focus of what we're doing is social responsibility.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And those are how many more cell phone apps or whatever with blockchain can we take? It's like, what are you doing that's socially responsible, that's making a difference, leveraging blockchain for a positive outcome, moving the ball down the field? And that's what we're focused on, but it does take a little bit of money. And in the meantime, we're focused on some mining, helping some people out, putting some stuff in our war chest, and then being able to take the next step.
Okay. Right. Well, there you go. We got all of our links up here, and you guys check it out. And hopefully, we'll be hearing from you soon about other things that are going on with you, and getting people involved in the tokens.
Yep. Well, I'm closed out here. My time is ended for my conference room. So I'll talk to you, man.
They're kicking you out. Okay, brother. Talk to you soon, man.